Caden Cowger. Somebody had to say it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Caden Cowger program, broadcasting from West Virginia. It is great to have you with us. So, I was watching Fox News, and they had the French president on, Macron, and anyway, he was talking about the riots that have been going on over in France. It has been an absolute nightmare over there. I mean, Paris is, quite frankly, it's been in complete chaos. And in addition to all that, all this is in reference to the high gas prices that are taking place over in France, and it was being enacted by Macron's party, and this was part of their global warming initiative. So in order to combat global warming, they were putting a tax on gasoline, and I guess that was going to go towards fighting climate change, which man can't control because man's not God. But, you know, liberals think that mankind can be God, so that is where Macron and his little henchmen over there stand on this issue. Well, anyway, on Fox today, he was genuinely shaken. He was genuinely shaken. This whole protest thing called the Yellow Vest protest has just completely catapulted his entire presidency into complete chaos. And he is literally fighting for his political life right now. And in this speech that he gave, he tried to be, I guess, compassionate and tried to relate to his people. But if the verbiage that he used, the language that he used, was just as horrific in French as it was in English, it sounded like he was trying to hold on to his political career that is dying. I mean, that's what it literally sounded like. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the things that he said was, listen, I love this country. I love this country. But I just want us to be able to move beyond this together. Well, of course you want to move on with it together, because that's the only shot that you have at keeping your political career. They're about ready to toss him out and scrap his whole administration, so of course he wants to try to move beyond it. No kidding. I want to move beyond this together. Yeah, sure you do. Because if you don't do it together, then guess who ends up on the losing side? Macron. Macron is stupid, okay? He does not know his head from a hole in the ground. He's a liberal politician, and the people over in France are getting absolutely fed up with it. I mean, my goodness, they have had liberal politicians controlling that country for years. And what was her name? Marie Le Pen? She ran against Macron, ended up losing. But she was a really conservative candidate over there. And with all of these gas prices just going through the roof, I mean, the popularity with her party has to increase, because this is an absolute catastrophe. It is. And the people there are getting absolutely fed up with it. And one of the things that he was saying was that, well, you know, we can't have violence in the streets. We got to contain this. We have to be civil. Yeah, you have to be civil. He doesn't have to worry about high gas prices. He doesn't have to worry about greater taxes on expenses. You know why? Because the French people are paying his salary. They pay for his gas. They pay for his livelihood. They pay for his housing. They pay for all of his expenses. So, yeah, he can be, King Louis up there, spending all this money, not worrying about higher taxes, not worrying about the average guy. But, the moment that you threaten to take his little kingdom away from him, we got to get beyond this together. I love this country. I love you. Yeah, sure you do. You just love your power. You love your position. And you want to try to inflict financial hardships on the French people just so that you can implement your quote-unquote climate change agenda. It's absolutely pathetic. But there's a lot of money to be made with regards to promoting this climate change narrative. A lot of money to be made. And Macron and his little cronies and his special interests that contribute to his political campaign are all on board with this. Who are the ones that financially benefit? How would all that be connected? Who are the ones that financially benefit from climate change? The special interest groups. That's what special interest groups are composed of. People who have certain interests and are involved in private industries, be it, in this case, in the areas of quote-unquote science and technology and all this type of hoo-ha. It's really junk science. As if it was actual science, then they would know that the climate has been changing forever since God made the earth. I mean, if you are someone that is a proponent of the ice age, guess what? That was climate change. Well, how do we get out of the ice age? Did mankind suddenly start driving automobiles that caused the temperature of the earth to start heating up? No, it was a natural climate cycle that took place. So that's what I mean. It doesn't make any ounce of sense how this is all man-made. The earth has always naturally gone through climate cycles. But you try to explain this to a liberal? No, we have to save the planet. We have to save the planet. So they start enacting all these taxes and applying all these regulations on the businesses. But they make a big profit off of it too. How does all that work? Well, how all that works is that the government gives money to fund this climate research, these climate organizations. Well, what ends up happening is that many of the institutions that are receiving the federal money, they have employees. Well, the employees get big salaries. Well, then those employees then give to special interest groups out of their own personal finances, and they fund them. So then they benefit. So then they invest in this super PAC, or they invest in these other private organizations that they have over there to contribute to political campaigns, similar to super PACs we have here. They contribute to those, and then they give to the campaigns, and then they run campaigns over there in France. So, of course, Macron is benefiting here because not only is he receiving campaign contributions from these people that are part of the climate initiative, but in addition to that, he gets essentially free advertising over there from these special interest and lobbyist campaigns and PACs and so forth, political PACs. So, of course, he benefits from all of this. And there's a lot of money that flows in and out of course, a science field, a science organization. A lot of these are private sector companies. They're not nonprofit, they're private sector companies. So these companies can also contribute to campaigns as well. So that's what I mean. Is this all just a big political power game? And that's why they love global warming. That's why they promote, even here in the United States, that's where a lot of the money comes from. So, guys, that's what I'm saying. This whole thing was just exposed over in France. The people are getting sick of it. We don't care if the earth is getting a little bit hotter this year than usual. Okay? We don't care. In a few more years, it's going to be a little bit colder. Big whoop-de-doo. Okay? You are absolutely draining our bank accounts for gas so that we can travel throughout our country. And these people are over there essentially fighting for their bank accounts, trying to prevent their entire livelihoods from being destroyed by Macron and his little liberal henchmen in that country. So he's completely freaking out. No violence, no violence. Well, you start taking away people's way of living, you start draining their bank accounts, you start increasing all these prices, you better believe that there's going to be some violence. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying that it's expected. When you're making it so that people cannot live, guess what? That's going to make some people angry that you don't want to make angry because it's affecting the average everyday person. For a lot of people, it's more of a luxury to be able to not care about politics. I don't vote. Well, the amazing thing is that for several years in this country, a lot of people could feel that way. Yeah, I don't vote. Well, you have that liberty to, but things were operating in this country to a degree of where we weren't being immersed in a ton of financial hardships with regards to taxation on gas and so forth. Democrats and Republicans pretty much both equally opposed increasing gas prices and things like, that affect the common man, although that has changed in recent years. But overall, it was rather more of a luxury to say, well, I'd really just keep out of politics. But when it starts getting to the point to where you can't afford to buy food, you can't afford to buy clothes, you can't afford to buy gas because the taxes are so darn high on that stuff, well, then you start paying attention to politics. That's what's happening over in France. It's now no longer an option not to care. And guess what? People are valuing the economy, not socially liberal policies. Why is it? Because now they're not able to have enough money to go on trips with their family. They no longer have enough money to make as regular trips to the supermarket or to different stores. Their transportation is now limited. And over there in Europe, they have better transportation transportation alternatives, that is, compared to what we have here in America, because you have trains, you have transits, and you have all that. But still, automobiles are the predominant means of transportation over there. Walking is also, that's really all you can afford. When the gas prices are so high, you got to walk. But for many people, this is severely impacting them. They're not happy about this. So, of course, they're going to get a little bit cranky. And they're going to be rioting potentially. Because that's what happens when you try to financially destroy a nation. They don't like it. They start fighting back eventually when it gets to a boiling point. And now Macron has decided not to apply the gas tax along with his party. And why is that? Because of the outcry from the French people. And guys, this should be a lesson to all members of the left. And in addition to that, it should be a lesson to all millennials that vote Democrat. One of the things that I really understand about my generation to a degree is that the reason why they vote Democrat is because they're not paying taxes yet. But now that they're starting to pay taxes, they're starting to realize, hey, the government's taking all the money that I work hard to make. You have many millennials that have to live with their parents because they can't afford to leave. They can't afford to buy a house of their own. And then when they start having to look at all the taxes that they owe and all this stuff, what do you mean I have all this tax on a car? What do you mean I have all this tax on these interests? What is all this stuff? Then they start to realize, oh, hey, maybe I should start voting Republican. That's why they say that people oftentimes transition from being Democrat to being Republican. They start paying taxes, they enter the real world, and realize, hey, the government's taking everything that I'm making and then spending it on stupid crap like climate change.
Fighting liberalism one lie at a time. Caden Calgary. Somebody had to say it.
All right, time to take off. Hey Siri, play Caden Calgar.
Playing the Caden Calgar Program podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
With Apple CarPlay, I can listen to my favorite podcast on my way to work. Subscribe to the Caden Calgar Program podcast on iTunes and listen to the show on demand, day or night. It's great commentary, keeps me informed, and part of my daily routine. It's conservative talk on my schedule, and I don't miss a second of it. Also, be sure to tell your friends. Subscribe to the Caden Calgar Program on iTunes today. Now, back to the show.
Caden Calgar. Somebody had to say it.
Well, I'm a little bit ticked. You have Chief Justice John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh that have both decided to give Planned Parenthood a victory. And you heard correctly. And this is strictly political. I am not happy about this. You should not be either. Because what it essentially shows is that these people are rather cowards. I'll put it that way. They are cowards. So what's happening here is that because you have Brett Kavanaugh that just went through this hearing with regards to the Supreme Court nomination and all that, and you know, his contentious confirmation hearings and all this stuff, they had an opportunity to pick up a case on defunding Planned Parenthood. And because they didn't want to make any waves, Chief Justice John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh, they decided, well, we're not going to pick this up. We have the opportunity to, but we're not going to. They declined. And this is according to the Daily Wire. Go ahead and listen to this. This is by Paul Boyes over there. Planned Parenthood got another victory at the Supreme Court today, thanks to the fecklessness of Justices Roberts and Kavanaugh, who both declined to hear a case on whether states can defund abortion businesses under the Medicaid Act. According to CNN, the Roberts-led court left in place two lower court opinions that said states violate federal law when they terminate Medicaid contracts with Planned Parenthood affiliates who offer preventive care for low-income women. It requires 4 justices to hear a case before the court. Only 3 agreed that it should be contested. And those 3 were Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch. Both Kavanaugh and Roberts sided with the court's liberals. In a fierce dissent, Justice Thomas argued that the Supreme Court declined to do its job by rejecting the case. What explains the court's refusal to do its job here? Thomas wrote, I suspect it has something to do with the fact that some respondents in these cases are named Planned Parenthood. Thomas further argued that the case in question had nothing to do with abortion rights and everything to do with private rights under the Medicaid Act. Thomas continued saying, but these cases are not about abortion rights. They are about private rights under the Medicaid Act. Resolving the question presented here would not even affect Planned Parenthood's ability to challenge a state's decisions. It concerns only the rights of individual Medicaid patients to bring their own suits. CNN profiled this particular case's history from a lower court ruling to the Supreme Court's decision on Monday. This is what they wrote. Kansas, one of the states that had asked the Supreme Court to step in, wanted the justices to review a lower court opinion that held while states have broad authority to ensure that Medicaid health care providers are qualified to provide medical services. The power has limits. States may not terminate providers from their Medicaid program for any reason they see fit, especially when that reason is unrelated to the provider's competence and the quality of the health care it provides, a panel of judges on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals held last Friday. Kansas and Louisiana moved to terminate Medicaid contracts with the affiliates after a group opposing abortion published edited videos edited videos. They were not, okay? You watch the full videos, they're still not edited. Same thing there, selling fetal remains. In 2014, they said depicted officials of Planned Parenthood Federation of America discussing fetal tissue and appearing to talk about the price of such tissue. While CNN's descriptions of the videos as edited is clearly intended to portray them as being deceptively edited, the group has released unedited raw footage of some of the famous undercover videos. Though Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh did give Planned Parenthood a victory today, the decision does not necessarily mean that they do not have serious objections to the case, according to CNN Supreme Court analyst Steve Vladeck. Likely, the two justices declined the case to avoid any high-profile decision or decisions being made in the first year of Kavanaugh's tenure on the court to maintain its appearance of impartiality following his contentious nomination process. That would explain why Chief Justice, the chief of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and Justice Kavanaugh, Brett Kavanaugh, both voted with liberals. Justice Roberts, I had to think of his name there for a minute. Chief Justice John Roberts has a leadership role in the court, so of course he's going to vote politics and what would be the best angle to go at this, and, blah, 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 blah. So they're playing politics, and they gave the left their way for a little bit. So that's what happened here. And I think it's absolutely spineless. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, they're going to impeach him. Yeah, how are they going to impeach him? Whatever. I mean, and if they're going to impeach him, then they're going to bring proceedings anyway. I mean, just stupid. So yeah, that's what happened on the Supreme Court. By the way, Hillary Clinton. I want to talk about that for a minute. There's a lot of talk as to if Hillary Clinton is going to run again, and I made a video about this quite some time ago, but I said Hillary Clinton is going to run in 2020. Guarantee it. Guarantee that this is going to happen again. Give it some time. This was actually made this remark 1 year ago, back on December 19th. So, yeah, here in a few days, it'll be exactly 1 year. Or no, excuse me. It'll be 2 years. 2 years ago I made this. It's December 19th, 2016. But I made this point about a year ago. I want to go ahead and play the audio bit here for you. This is yours truly back on December 19th, 2016. That is a valid question. If the Russians are responsible, or fake news is responsible, or the Russians or a video is responsible for Hillary losing this election and Donald Trump winning, then what's to stop Hillary from running again in 2020? And that's a question that I asked all the way back then, 2 years ago, immediately after the election. Yours truly saw this coming. Hillary Clinton is thinking about running for president again. So I did. I asked the question, what is to stop her from running again? She has the best argument out of all the candidates. Listen, I was clearly the most qualified for the Democratic nominee and for the presidency because the Democrats chose me. I won the popular vote. And in addition to all that, the election was stolen from me by the Russians. Not Trump. Trump had nothing to do with it. The Russians did it. The Russians caused me to lose. If that's the argument, if that's what liberals really believe, that Russia is the culprit here, Russia is the reason why Hillary lost, then why not give her the nomination again? So that she can have a clear path to victory because there won't be Russian interference this time. I think that that's an intriguing question to ask. I think that that's what Hillary Clinton is really going to pursue because I don't know. I am to the degree where I think that she might actually be living in this delusion to a certain extent. I mean, she's the one that colluded with the Russians. So you've got to ask yourself the question, is she really believing this? Or is this simply just a show? But I don't know. She seemed like she had a complete breakdown after the election, so she might actually believe this. But if she does, that makes it even worse. Russia stole this from me, so I've got to run again because it wasn't the American people that caused me to lose. It was Russia. So if that's the case, and that's the reason why she believes she lost, there's nothing stopping her. And there really isn't, because she thinks that her throne was stolen from her.
Some say he's the next Rush Limbaugh.
I tell you, this kid's got 90% of Russia's venom with only 10% of the biomass.
Caden Calgary. Somebody had to say it.
With all the fake news spread by the lying mainstream media,
It's fake, phony, fake.
it can be hard to find the truth. That's why you should listen to the Caden Calgary program. You'll stay informed on current events and hear great conservative commentary you won't find anywhere else. Also, be sure to tell your friends. Subscribe to the Caden Calgary program on iTunes or Google Play Music. It's conservative talk on my schedule, and I don't miss a second of it. Thanks for listening. Now, back to the show.
Caden Calgary. Somebody had to say it.
So, guys, remember when liberals said that James Comey should be fired as FBI director for reopening the investigation of Hillary Clinton's emails? Well, then what happened? When Trump fired Comey, liberals were then suddenly Comey's best friend. How can Trump do this? He should be impeached. Russia collusion. I mean, they just all started freaking out. Well, you had Chuck Schumer that said this was a big mistake, which I will be playing that audio bit here in a minute. And now it's becoming even clearer why Trump did an excellent job. James Comey was at 92Y, which is an organization over in New York, and he called for the American people to vote President Trump out of office. So it's clear this guy's been a Democrat all along. He's been biased all along, and all of this hoo-ha that he was spewing to the committee regarding the investigation of alleged Russian collusion was a bunch of bunk. Completely fake. Fake news, okay? It was so absolutely fake. James Comey is out there going on an anti-Trump campaign tour of where he's calling for the American people to vote him out of office. And if you remember, what was it that Trump asked him? Mr. Comey, I want your loyalty, okay? Do I have it? That is Trump talk for Mr. Comey. Are you going to undermine my administration, or are you going to work for me and cooperate? And what was the answer? Comey took great offense to being asked that question. What do you mean, am I loyal to you? I'm independent. No, you're not independent. You are part of the branch that enforces the law, which is called what? The executive branch, who heads that up? Oh, yeah, that's right, the President of the United States, which happens to be Donald J. Trump. So you better be loyal. You better cooperate. That's your boss. And what is it that Comey said? How could you ask such a question? Oh. Well, I want you to listen to just how absolutely liberal Comey is. He's been a Democrat all along, and no wonder Democrats were so upset when he got fired. He's one of them. Listen, this is Comey.
I hope Donald Trump is not removed from office by impeachment, because it would let the country off the hook, and it would drive into the fabric of our nation a third of the people believing there was a coup. And we need a moment of inflection where we all get off the couch and say, that is not who we are, and in a landslide, rid ourselves of this attack on our values. And if we, in a way, short-circuited that with an important, legitimate process through the Constitution, I worry that we'd be letting ourselves off the hook in a way, and we wouldn't have the moment of clarity that we need in this country. That said, if the facts are there and the legislative two houses of Congress think it's appropriate.
So there you go. Then go ahead and do it. That's what that little ending remark was. Then go ahead and do it. So, guys, that's what I'm saying. this whole entire trash, it's all that it is. It was a pile of dirt that Comey was building against Trump. It was all politically motivated. It was all created with disdain for the president. He went to the degree of criticizing President Trump's physical appearance, his orange skin tone, his weird hair. I mean, if you read his book, which I haven't read his book, I have read snippets from his book because I don't want to buy his book. This man is extremely disturbed, which most liberals are. When you are that put off by someone's physical appearance, and this is supposedly just, you're trying to have a constructive conversation with your boss here, or a professional conversation, that is, it's very unprofessional to begin to ridicule your boss's physical appearance to try to gain credibility for your argument and for your case, whatever that case was supposed to be by, him writing a book. That's an ad hominem attack. It doesn't mean anything. It's an illogical fallacy. Why are you giving us that description? I mean, guys, that is what he engaged in. That's all that the left has to engage in. Just a bunch of mudslinging. And I'm telling you, this whole entire mess, but this entire mess is just a complete embarrassment for the left, especially if Trump wins re-election. Can you imagine if Trump would win re-election after all this? We just have to have this massive landslide victory that rids us of Trump. Just all of us just get out and all of us start voting, and all of us just cast our ballots and ballot after Trump and try to get him out and vote against Pence and vote against Republicans, vote Democrats, and they're going completely mad. They are literally more insane than the Mad Hatter. I mean, my goodness, these people don't even work with mercury, and they have signs of worse trauma than that. Than mercury exposure. Seriously, guys, they have worse mental impairments than someone that has been a hatter working with mercury their whole life. It is so absolutely horrific. By the way, I have another audio bit I want to play for you. This is Comey saying that no matter what political party you're in, you should do what you can to find Trump's attacks on the DOJ and FBI, and you should find it completely disturbing. Go ahead and listen to this.
Of what we talked about today, a whole lot of Hillary Clinton's emails, which will bore you.
You said you're okay with that the next time the hearing will be public? Was there any talk of that?
There wasn't any talk of it. I think they want to do it the same way. I wish it were going to be public, but I think we're going to have to do it the same way again.
You said you were okay with the Barr nomination itself. Did you have any concerns about the firing of Jeff Sessions and the president continually going after Jeff Sessions for not recusing himself from the Mueller investigation?
I think the president's attacks on the Justice Department broadly and the FBI are something that no matter what political party you're in, you should find deeply troubling and continue to speak out about, not become numb to attacks on the rule of law.
So with the firing of Sessions specifically, did you have
That's not something I can comment on.
Director Comey, can I ask you a question on FISA abuse? It's a major issue for the Republicans. Did you have total confidence in the dossier when you used it to secure a surveillance warrant and also in the subsequent renewals?
I have total confidence that the FISA process was followed and that the entire case was handled in a thoughtful, responsible way by DOJ and the FBI. I think the notion that FISA was abused here is nonsense.
As a private citizen, how do you think Bob Mueller's investigation is going?
As a private citizen, as someone who knows the justice system, I see it proceeding incredibly quickly and very, very professionally. The most important indication of that is you don't know anything about it except when he filed something in court, and that's the way it should be.
Are you prepared to return next year when Democrats regain control of Congress to testify perhaps on the questions of obstruction of justice in an impeachment case?
I always want to respect the institution of Congress. I'd love it if they didn't want me to testify, but if they want me to testify and we can do it in a responsible way, I will abide it. So we'll see what happens.
Do you know anything about Rod Rosenstein wearing a wire? Did that ever come up in any of your discussions when you were there?
Yeah, I can't comment on that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Anyway, here's the thing, guys. With James Comey, you know what I think his end game is? I think he wants his old job back. I think that's what he's going for. I think that Comey is under the impression that if he just completely hammers Trump, what's going to end up happening is that the next president, assuming that it's a Democrat, is going to reappoint him to that position and fire the current FBI director. I think that's what he's going for.
Caden Calgar. Keeping America straight. Caden Calgar. Somebody had to say it.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to today's show. I want to tell you another great way that you can listen to this podcast. You can do that by downloading the iHeartRadio app from the iTunes App Store or Google Play. You can just search my name, Caden Calgar, and then listen to the show. You'll gain access to great conservative content, insightful commentary, and you'll stay up to date on the nation's latest news. So what are you waiting for? Download the iHeartRadio app today. Thanks so much again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
Caden Calgar. Somebody had to say it.
By the way, I want to play this audio bit for you. This is Chuck Schumer back on May 10th, 2017 on James Comey's firing. And listen to what Chuck Schumer said. They were portraying this guy as being completely unbiased, as being just an angel from heaven. Doesn't have any political ties whatsoever to anybody. Just a complete independent. This is Chuck Schumer. Listen.
Earlier this afternoon, President Trump called me and informed me he was firing Director Comey. I told the president, Mr. President, with all due respect, you are making a big mistake.
Yeah,
the
right.
First question the administration has to answer is why now?
Why now?
If the administration had objections
undermining
to the way Director Comey handled the Clinton investigation, they had those objections the minute the president got into office. But they didn't fire him then. Why did it happen today?
Because he proved
he
was undermining
the House
Trump.
Was investigating Russian interference in our elections that benefited the Trump campaign.
Oh my gosh, that must be a connection.
We know the Senate is investigating. We know the FBI has been looking into whether the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians. A very serious offense. Were these investigations getting too close to home for the president?
I don't know.
It is troubling that Attorney General Sessions, who had recused himself from the Russian investigation, played a role in firing the man leading it. So what happens now?
What happens now? Well, I'll tell you what happens now. Comey goes on a national tour calling for President Trump to be thrown out of office by the American people. And we now learn that the reason why Comey got fired was because he's a political hack from the moment that Trump entered the White House and was working to undermine his administration. So, yeah, I think Trump did a pretty good job firing Comey. That's why the Democrats said, big mistake. Yeah, big mistake for them. Comey was a Democrat. Comey's wife and children were women's marchers. Comey has been working with the left. And if he would have remained in there, guess what? He would have been working to undermine President Trump all the way. And the thing that's really disturbing is that now that Comey's going on this national anti-Trump tour, we also know that Mueller also has a close tie to Comey. Comey worked with Mueller for years, looked up to Mueller, had hundreds of meetings with Mueller. And this is the guy that is in charge of the Russia investigation. The question that we have to ask, how long are Republicans going to allow this to go on? How long is that going to happen? How much longer are we going to deal with this? When are we going to bring this to a forcible close? Because all that this is doing is that it's just giving the Democrats the ability to say, oh, yep, Trump's under Russia investigation. And now they're trying to get Trump on campaign contributions. Trump paid, apparently, this is what they're saying anyway, that he paid hush money to, I guess, Stormy Daniels, something like that. They're bringing that up again, and they're saying that he ran that money through the lawyer and that should have been a campaign contribution, so they're trying to hammer him for that. But the thing is that Trump paid for it with his own money. So who the heck cares? And no one who voted for Trump thought that he was as pure as the wind-driven snow. I mean, he was on Playgirl magazine, for crying out loud. But since then, he's given his heart to the Lord, according to James Dobson. Yeah, that's a pass. That's in the past. Big deal. It's over. Cleansed by the blood. So, whatever, guys. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening to us. For more information on the Caden Calgar program, go to CadenCalgarProgram.com. And for the latest news exposing the left, go to CalgaryNation.com. Thank you. God bless, and God save this nation.